All right, good morning. And today I think I want to talk about the clarity of the experience available through the breath. And in particular, so I started with this actually with the idea that there was nothing obscure about the breath, and then I thought I would frame it both as that original idea, but then also as a positive. There was nothing obscure because the breath is clear. So what do I mean by that? What am I thinking? What am I experiencing? Here's where I'm at right now in my practice, and right now my practice has sort of returned to the foundational practice of watching the breath, stabilizing the mind, concentrating the mind by watching the breath, applying my full attention, focus, mindfulness to the full scope of the breath. Hang on a second. Hey, calm down. Those dogs, they're always, someday the dog is settling in behind me on a wood floor. And so he's trying to make the wood floor more comfortable by scratching it. That's probably a good metaphor for a lot of practice. Anyway, observing the breath from start to finish. Allowing thoughts to represent themselves around the breath. Like the image I really love for this, and I've shared before here, is the breath. My body is like a mountain, and the thoughts are like birds that fly through the clouds at the top of the mountain. And my focus is not on those thoughts, and eventually maybe they will settle back into their nests. They're never going to go away. At least that's my working hypothesis, is that the thoughts and emotions, sensations don't evaporate as the concentration deepens and progresses. They still arise, but they arise within the context of full concentration. That's maybe a different topic. So the breath is stable. It may be long and serene, or it may be short and more natural. Maybe that's not the point of this practice. I'm not doing breath control practice. I'm watching my breath, and if my breath is short and a little bit agitated, fair enough. And if my breath has become longer and slower, also fair enough. But no matter the quality of the breath, and I don't mean quality in sense of better or worse, I mean quality like the attribute. Regardless of the attributes of the breath, one of the first points I notice as I'm beginning to pay more attention, as I'm becoming less distracted, is that at the end of the breath, at the full exhale, there is a series of twitches, and I don't have a better word for them, because it's not physical. It's not like I'm physically twitching. It's almost as if there's a conjunction internally that just shifts. It's like a chiropractic adjustment for the esophagus or something like that, or for the brachia, maybe that, right? And I become very aware of that. Then, as the breath continues, I start to experience the breath kind of bringing my body along with it. As I breathe in and out, I realize that just a fraction behind the sensation of breathing through my nose and my lungs, my body also rises and falls. And I become very aware of that rise and fall of the body following along behind the breath. And then quite quickly, once that shift has taken place, as the body settles at the bottom of the breath, there's a sense of something else settling. Like, I'm hesitant to use the words like energy or field or anything like that, but it's an energy and a field. It's as if my body is extended out, which, fair enough, that makes sense, right? We have other practices where we observe the body as a formation of sensations, not limited by what we think of as our form, as our skin, but really what are we experiencing as pressure and tingling and heat or pain or pleasure, a mandala of sensation that is the current body. And as the body follows the breath and settles down, this view or this continuation of the body also settles down. But there's no edge to that. And that's maybe the point I'm focused on right now, is that as that extension of the body sensation settles down after the breath, there's no point where I can say that it ends. There's a point where I'm not aware of it, but it's a focus and a diligence, right? It's an application of mindfulness that causes that, not that there's actually a real end of it. Like my breath, where does my breath end when it's exhaled? And where do the sensations of my body really end when they settle down? So I'm noting this now here, and during the practice session, I'm focused, I'm concentrating, and aware of these experiences, but trying to allow them to arise and fall with the breath. The focus is my breath. My focus is not these realizations or experiences during the session. My focus is the breath, and sometimes I have these experiences of sort of edgeless body sensations, and sometimes I have experiences of my leg really hurting, and what am I going to make for breakfast, and how could I have been such a aggrieved, irritated asshole at work, right? All that stuff. So here's the shift that I want to bring up today in this video, is that I think I've got the narrative backwards, right? I described it as first I settle and I breathe, and then at the bottom of the breath I feel a sort of brachial adjustment, and then I become aware of the weight of my body moving just a little bit behind my breath, and then I get a sense of the body extending out beyond the immediately apparent form. But I think it's backwards. And if I'm really then settled and watching the breath is breathing, right? I am not deliberately saying, now breathe. I'm not controlling the breath. This is not breath control exercise. And if I'm watching the breath is occurring. And I think this is where I'm starting to feel the resonance with language when our teachers say things like, we are waves in an ocean. Because I think that I feel this not this settling down following my breath, but rather an upswelling on top of which or within which my breath occurs. Now, when I say there's nothing obscure about that, I also mean there's nothing occult about this. This isn't like a transformational practice to alter the course of my body. It's a process. All right, I have to figure out how to edit that. There was a cat in here, and those puppies are very excited when those cats. Where was I? There's nothing obscure about this. There's nothing that is being changed. This is an experience that happens as my distraction settles. And this feels very important right now for where I'm at with my practice. I'm not changing the nature of my breath or changing the nature of my relationship with the cosmos. I am settling, like the other image that I particularly love, along with the mountain and the birds, is water filled with particles that swirls, and as it settles, as it stops swirling, the particles settle and the water becomes clear. Nothing has changed in the nature of the water or the nature of the particles. What's changed is the relationship between the two of them, caused by stillness and a bit of direction, right? Like the teachings are pointing things out. They are not telling me what to do. They are telling me what to look for, because I don't know what to look for. It's like I know how to lift things up, but I don't know how to deadlift 500 pounds. I would need a coach to show me how to do all of those things. And just like with physical training, if I don't do the necessary practices of physical and mental discipline, I won't be able to lift the weight. And if I don't pay attention to the pith instructions that point out within the vast array of experience which ones to look for, these are all normal daily parts of our experience, but we don't start off knowing what to look for. We get distracted by the karmic obscurations, by the nature of our thoughts, by the nature of our emotions, and so we live with those because we do. We live in that world, but we have to also be able to recognize the moments that are in between those, and then when it is time to practice, to focus on those and to stabilize and mature that equilibrium. So that's where I'm at today, and let me see what damage those dogs did. That poor cat was sitting up on top of the piano, minding her own business. The dogs hadn't noticed that she was there, and she stretched up, and they noticed her, and then that was it. So, as always, share this video if you know anyone who might find it interesting. I hope you're finding these useful. Please let me know if you have questions or comments, feedback. If you're having similar experiences or similar points along the way of practice, I'd love to hear either in the comments or drop me an email. Keep your wits about you.